All right. It's Sunday, May 15th, 2022. We're reading today rule number 5. Don't call him and rarely return his calls. All right, I'm going to start reading. If you're following the rules religiously, there is no reason to call him. He should be calling you and calling you again and again until he pins you down for a date. To call men is to pursue them, which is totally against the rules. They will immediately know that you like them and possibly lose interest. Another reason not to call men is that you don't catch him in the middle of something, like watching a football game, paying bills, entertaining a friend, or even sleeping, when they may not be in the mood to talk to you. Why take a chance? Invariably, when you call him, he will get off the phone first, or quickly, and you might misinterpret his busyness as disinterest. You may even think that he's with another woman. Understandably, you feel empty and nervous for the rest of the day or even until you hear from him again. This nervousness might make you call him again to ask, "Is everything okay? Or do you still love me, miss me?" And you end up breaking more rules. So if you don't want a man to know how much you like him or that you feel empty and insecure, don't call him. If he leaves a message on your machine to return his call, try not to. Only call him back right away if it's a scheduling change regarding an upcoming date or event, not just to chat. Not calling will leave him desiring you more, make him want to see you again and call you again. It prevents him from getting to know all about you much too quickly and getting bored. Besides, when you call only once in a while, it becomes special. Don't worry about seeming rude. When he loves you or wants to get in touch with you badly, he won't think you're rude, just busy or hard to get. And men always call again. Have you ever noticed that the conversation is always better when men call you? That's because when they call you, they're doing the dialing. They want you, miss you at the moment, and can't wait to hear your voice. When they call you, you're when they call you, they're the aggressor. They thought about what they're going to say and have made the time to say it. They're available. The rules work for you when they call you because you may not be home and they wonder where you are or have to call you again. When they call you, you might be busy and have to nicely cut the conversation short. It will be easier to do the rule number 6. Always end phone calls first when you let them call you. But none of us are saints, and the reality is that we sometimes have to call men back. Not to call them, mind you, just call them back. If for whatever reason you have to return a man's calls, try to wait. Don't call right back. When you do, keep the conversation short and sweet. Don't tell his machine what time and what nights you can be reached or volunteer any additional information about how he can reach you. That would be making too easy for him and you will appear too eager. Let him figure it out. Remember, you're a rules girl. You're very, very busy. A rules girl typically comes home to many messages on her answering machine from men trying to fill up her weekends. Now, what if he leaves a message on your machine on Tuesday night and you're dying to get a Saturday night date out of him? Do you call back Tuesday night? The rules answer is no, because it will seem obvious that you are probably calling to get a Saturday night date. Better that he call you again by Wednesday night, the absolute cutoff for a Saturday night date. Better not to have a date on Saturday night than to get in a habit of calling him. The rules are not about getting a date, but a husband. Don't win a battle and lose the war. Remember, the rules are also about not getting hurt or dumped. We never want you to go through unnecessary pain. Life has enough pain without our adding man pain to it. We can't control cancer or drunk drivers, but we can restrain ourselves from dialing his number. If you call him and he doesn't return your call or doesn't ask you out, you'll be crushed. If you call him, he'll think you're not so elusive and he won't have to work so hard. If you call him, he won't get trained to ask you out at the end of each date. He has to learn that if he doesn't ask you out when he sees you, he might not reach you on the phone so soon and not see you for a week or two. It's not that you're impossible to get, it's just hard to get. Remember, you're very busy with activities and other dates and you make plans ahead of time. But don't reprimand him for not calling sooner, but saying, if you had called earlier, just say, really, I'd love to, but I can't. He'll figure out he has to call sooner. If he's in love with you, he'll start calling Monday or Tuesday for Saturday night. If he doesn't love you, then he won't call you again and again until he pins you down. However, don't be surprised if a man takes a week or two after the first date to call. He might have a lot of things going on. He might be dating other women, he may be trying to fit you into his schedule, but just isn't sure how to do it. Remember, he had a life before he met you. Don't flip out, just get busy. So you don't think about him 24 hours a day. Give him space, wait for him to call. Here's a good example of how to handle such a situation. Our friend Laura waited 2.5 weeks after her first date with David to hear from him. David was newly divorced and needed time to think before jumping into another relationship. A rules girl, Laura gave him time and space. Unlike most women, she didn't call to see how he was doing or with some other excuse like, didn't you need the name of my financial planner? Sure, Laura was hurt, but she made plans with friends and went on blind dates. She had a pragmatic attitude. She knew that if he liked her, he'd eventually call. If he didn't, it was his loss. Next. When David finally called, she was nice and friendly. She didn't demand to know why he didn't call her sooner and want to talk about it. They dated for 10 months and are married now. One last thought about the phone. Sometimes we want to call a man we're dating, not to speak to him, but just to hear his voice. We feel that we're simply going to die if we don't hear his sexy voice this minute. That's understandable. We suggest you call his home answering machine when he's at work. Hang up before they beep. It works. that's that's funny. The chapter is all about answering machines, but we don't use we're 2022 and we don't really
Yeah.
use answering machines anymore. But it's okay. I
No.
think I think everybody gets it.
Yep, it's now voicemail.
It's not even voicemail anymore. I mean, I get maybe 5 times a year a voicemail on my phone. But okay, the chapter is not about it. It's more about like how to get off the phone and how to interact with men on the phone. So Renegade, what do you think about this?
Okay. Like I said, that is Chloe. That is my weakness, and that's where it goes back. What I tell people: women are brought up, even though it's the 21st century, to be people pleasers. You be the nice one. You play pretty. People pleasers. So therefore, we are taught. Oh, it's rude if you don't call somebody back right away, and you've got all these other people going. Well, if you like him, call him back. He'll think you're not inter, interested if you don't. And you're sitting here and you're like, okay, what do I do? Hey, George, what do I do? And and it could be, push me, pull you. But if but if women would sit down and just realize, like, it could be a female friend or it could be just a guy who is interested in them, and but they don't call them. Da, da, da. So when the guy calls back, they find that they have a little more time to talk to them, and not you're not ready to get off the phone right away, and because men are natural pursuers, so they are going to want to pursue. But if you lay all your cards out on the table, and what's the challenge? What do they have to look forward to? And you want them to think, what is she doing when she's not calling me back? Why is she calling me back? She's with another guy I knew she's with. I mean, you want him to do what women have been doing for thousands of years. Well, when Alexander Graham Bell invented the phone. So, I mean, and that's and I say, hey, it is a good thing. That's why I have a kitchen timer. I set my timer, and sometimes I'll set it for a little earlier, like 5 minutes or so. And I'm off the phone. I say, hey, look, gotta go, got something cooking. And, I'm off the phone. And of course, somebody will always call back and go, well, are you not busy? Uh, mm, Not at the moment, but I'm going to have to go in a few minutes. And so they say, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I answer them, and I don't, I try to make a joke out of it, but I'm like, I am so busy. And just get off the phone. You don't have to
That's nice.
also.
Mhm.
Well, that's also, this is what I have seen, and I used to be bad at it too, is that some women think that men have a priest collar around their neck, and they've got to tell them everything. And I don't know
That's a good
how many,
reference.
thank you, and I do not know how many times I have had to tell women, he's not your priest. You don't have to confess to him everything. And so when they're getting off the phone, they have to do like, oh, well, I got to go paint my toenails and wash my hair. And then, no, just say you got to go. You're busy. Bye.
Right,
You
right.
know,
I agree. That's the reference with the priest is so on point. Or women think he's like your doctor that you have to reveal everything, your
mhm,
therapist, your sister, your girlfriend. And
mhm,
that was actually me. I remember the times when I would say in my teens, maybe a little older, when I started dating, and I thought that's the way to lead a relationship when you have like everyday calls, 30 minutes to 2 hours calls. If he is like from another town, or you were teens, you don't see each other every day, you have school. And I thought that's the way to do it. Yes, I thought that's how you get close to men, by just chatting all night long before there is a thing amongst, I would say, youngsters, you know, oh, we talk every day on the phone for 2 hours, we just can't get enough of each other. But that's just so wrong. I used to do this too, but that's not
mhm,
how a guy will commit to you and and you know be with you and not pursue other women. It's not if you give him too much of your time. And I'm literally like I got really so good at actually getting off the phone. I don't even give guys 10 minutes. I don't even do that anymore. Like 10 minutes is really maximum cut off, because what else are you going to talk about with a guy on the phone that you can't talk on a date? Like literally, there's not much. Unless you're engaged to this guy and you're planning a wedding, there's nothing to be chatting around. Like, what are you going to talk about? The school, your work, your kids? What is it? Like, nothing that you can't lay off to a Saturday night date. So the only way for a guy to call you and actually chat with you during the week is setting up a date and details about this. So when he calls you and he just wants to chat about his day and how he brushed his teeth, that's not the way to spend your time. Honestly, like I cut this short. Like when a guy starts chatting, like about his day, I'm like, oh, I have no time for this. He's not my husband. He's not even my steady boyfriend. Like, who is he? Like, I need to get going, paint my nails, like you said it. So I usually have like give a guy 5 minutes until he starts like actually, hey, do you want to get together? Saturday night. How about dinner? If after 5 minutes this isn't coming or it's not leading into this conversation, I cut him short. I give him 5 minutes and he's off the table.
and yeah, and I know exactly what you mean. Like, I mean, I fluctuate. Do I do 5? Do I do 10? It depends. But, and if they're from somewhere else, I do like the 15 or 20, but that's if they're long distance, not 30 minutes away. and, but, and two, when you say you got to go, don't, and they talk to you again and ask, well, oh, what were you busy? You still do not have to tell them. I mean, I had to learn. And like you, okay, I grew up in the 80s and I thought the same thing. Oh, no secret. So you told a guy everything. Oh, you were on the phone for hours because it was so romantic to talk to each other and fall asleep together on the phone and all that. And now I sit back and I'm like, why? Where were the rules when I started dating? I started dating, by myself, not out with friends when I was 14. And I'm like, where were these dang rules when I needed them when I started dating? I could have bypassed a lot of mistakes. And the only one that I really know that it worked for was my mother and my father. And they met through a personal ad. He called her, and she's like, I used to be on the phone hours with him while he told me Vietnam stories because my father served in Nam. And, now I can sit back and go, you know, y'all were successful. You were married for over 20 years, but before my mother passed. But there's still some women out there who do it, and the guy's like, I'm going to call her if I don't have anybody else to talk to because she likes to talk. Where's it going to get you? You have no mystery, you have no nothing. It really doesn't pan out. Just like I have a friend, and I don't mean for this to be a subject. She was married to her now deceased husband for 30 years, but she made the first move. And I'm like, and I told her every time I made the first move in a relationship, they never worked out. They were always, for some reason, they were toxic. But when I let somebody make the first move, things work out okay, and breakups are really not as bad. And I'm more comfortable when somebody makes the first move. I'm just not one of these who are going to walk up and go, hey, how are you? And like you, if a guy's calling me and I really want to go out with him and he just wants to talk and talk and talk and talk, I'm like, gotta go now, bye. But like I said, before the rules, I would sit on the phone and talk. Give the phone to my mother because we sounded alike on the phone. And yes, I used to do this. Give the phone to my mother and she would talk.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
I mean, my mom, my mom and I,
Your mom has a
we
little
were,
more time, right?
yeah, well, because I would just be like, oh, mom, he's just talking, talking. But we sounded exactly alike on the phone. So I used to call and get myself out of school by saying I was her. And one day the school wanted to call and say that I wanted to get a friend of mine out of school, and that it was a very immature girl's voice. And my mother's like, well, then it's not my Mary Catherine because people think we sound alike on the phone. And do I sound like an immature girl? So,
Yeah.
but then the school didn't really know what to do with me because I was a punk rocker. So,
Yeah, I agree. Regarding the calling him and not calling him, like, yeah, I did pretty much similar mistakes, and I'm pretty sure that the person who's listening to this right now, the recording, will recognize herself in some of the things that we just mentioned. I like you started dating in your 80s. I started dating in 2000s. I'm year 89, so I didn't know like that you shouldn't be like I grew up with the phone. Like I barely
hmm
wrote letters. So, when the phone was invented, before the time the phone was invented, people had to write letters. And a letter will take a week or two to reach the person. So people were, romance happened, let's say during war, before or after, people only knew letters. And so, for to get a message back from a guy or to receive a message from a girl back, it took maybe a month. So romance was naturally rulercy, and that's why our grandparents, you know, people usually say nowadays, oh, my grandparents, they were married for like 30, 40 years. But yeah, because their courtship was rulesy in a way that it didn't happen fast. Men had no access to a woman for 2 hours on the phone. And so that's why we need to dial back a little bit at least to get the results of a courtship that our grandparents basically enjoyed. So yeah, that's my point.
Yes, and I mean I agree. And this is going to sound like I'm off the subject, but you came to mind when you mentioned that back in our grandparents and great grandparents' day, it was rulesy then because my great grandmother, my meemaw, that was my mother. She helped raise me, so I talk like her, and I talk like her word and all that, and I act like her along with my father. But anyway, when my great grandfather came out of the Marines and he went to this town, and he liked my grandmother. I mean, my great grandma, my meemaw, but she really was giving him a run for his money. So he had the second car in the whole town. So he took her out in his car, and he stopped the car, and he got her out of the car and set her on a tree stump. And there's a thunderstorm was coming on, and she was scared of thunderstorms. But he told her he wasn't going to let her go home until she agreed to marry him. And so finally she's like, okay, okay, I agree to marry you, Jitney Bramlett. Now get me out of here. Well, he got her in the
Hilarious.
car. He got her in the car, drove straight to the JP. That's like the judge, some wedding official. And he said he did. He used to tell people I did it before she had time to change her mind. But this is the family story because it's true. When the JP leaned in the window and said, "Do you, Evie Long, take Jitney Bramlett to be your lawful wedded husband? Do you promise to love, honor, and obey?" She looked up and she's like, "Love, yes. Honor, yes. Obey, maybe." And, my great grandfather in the JP looked at her like, "Maybe? What do you mean by maybe?" And she's like, "Because there's only two men in this world that I obey, and that's God and my papa. And Jitney Bramlett ain't either one of them." And so I used to tell everybody, if you put obey in my wedding vows, that's what I'm going to say. Maybe.
Maybe
But
that's so funny. There's a similar story. A girlfriend of mine got proposed by her now husband, and when he proposed, um, she's like a very cool girl, and she said like, "Oh, finally!" And then this ring would go perfectly with my dress, so she didn't. And then, and then she said, before she's actually said yes, she said, "You know what? But I will say yes, but under one condition." And she said, if I'm allowed to do anything and I'm not going to be, um, limited in my activities, basically, she wanted the full freedom in her marriage. And he said, whatever you want, just say yes. So, yeah, I mean, you can set a condition toward, you don't have to like gush, oh my God, yes, I couldn't, I was so waiting for you to propose. Oh my God, you're the man of my dreams. Like, you can be like a little bit, hey, I will say yes, but under my conditions, because yeah, you can have an opinion, you can have your own rules, whatever we still rules girls, so we're not, falling at guys' feet just because he proposed to us.
and and it's like, okay, because I admit I used to be so bad at when a guy said he loved me, I'd go, "I love you too," and I really didn't feel it. Or if they asked me to marry him, I go, "Okay," because I didn't want to be mean. I didn't want to be known as the bitch and all that. So but then later on, I'm breaking up with all the. But now I'm like, nope. What's in it for me? What am I getting out of the deal here? And because, um, so now I'm not. Now I'm not scared to do that anymore. If someone calls, I had somebody tell me that they loved me when I was back home in Georgia, and I'm like, "Thank you." Well, aren't you going to say anything back? I said, "Thank you."
That's how we respond. Yes, that's true. When a guy, I used to be like you, like I used to. Okay, it has nothing to do with this chapter anymore, but like, when a guy was like, "Oh, I love you," or "I really like you," "I want you to be my girlfriend," I want Ryan back and say the same thing in return. But like, no, if you're a rules girl, you say thanks, or you smile and nod, and like, or you say, oh, that's nice, and just smile sweetly. But that's we don't, we don't give it back in the same way. We receive more than we give out because in courtship it's all about receiving and not giving. It's not a
Yeah.
it's just it's not 50-50. It shouldn't be 50-50. I mean, it was for me when I was dating. I thought, oh, I need
Mhm.
to give it back just so he feels like I'm also interested. But no, 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 no. You
No.
are, as a woman, on the receiving side. You receive the phone call. You receive flowers. You receive date nights. He has to pay. He has to court you. I have Russian background, and there's a Russian saying, with the men it has to be good. Basically, you can be bad all by yourself, because you can struggle and you have difficulties in your own life all by yourself. If a man does add bad situations to your life or bad
Mhm.
circumstances or unpleasant feelings, there's no need in this man anymore. So rules girl doesn't accept bad behavior. We received good. If the man is not trying to court us, we next him, we let go of him, we don't hold on to him. If he doesn't call us, he's not interested, let him go, whatever, like, next one, there's another cute guy around the corner. So this is our attitude.
Yes, and and I agree. Or like when I started going back, because when I was younger, I used to be, you know, pretty much a rules girl, but it just came naturally to me. And like I said, I'm a shy extrovert, so if I really didn't know the person, I didn't really talk. But but then I hit a rough patch after my second divorce and strayed so far away. And I look at the book and I'm like, oh boy, did I blow this one? And I did it. But hey, everybody's allowed to make a mistake. You just got to learn from them. And but you know, what was I saying? I was getting a drink. But chasing, pursuing, calling, or doing whatever. And like one thing in the book, I like what it said. When like if you call and you get him in the middle of something and he's in a hurry or whatever, you're going to think, oh, he's not interested. Oh, he's not. No, he's not. And so, of course, some women are going to call back and go, are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong? No, he was just busy. And you said, like if somebody doesn't call me, whether it's a friend, lover, or whatever, or potential, and they have my number and they haven't called, well, I'm, you can't force somebody to like you or love you. And, so you don't pick up the phone and do this and do this and do this. I mean, sorry, that's really not how it works. And I've had people tell me, well, things have changed since then, and this is da, 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 da. And I'm like, yes, but aren't you still single? How's
That's
your way
true.
working for you? And and
Yeah.
I try not to. Yeah, I'm an alpha female, so we have a tendency to be a little bit bossy. So try to curb that. But I like to help people. When I see a mistake, I run in and I want to help. But then when they look at it, I'm like, oh, you don't appreciate my help? Okay. So there have been many situations where I've had to sit and bite my tongue. Like this chapter, I'm like, don't call him back right away. Mm-mm. Hey, give him 24 hours. Let him wonder where you are. you know, uh, and hey, don't do, 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 do. But it's because I learned from my mistakes. Because too, there are some guys out there that will take advantage of you making the first move and you chasing it, chasing it, chasing, and they'll be like, "Well, I could do whatever I want to. I could treat her anyway because she's not going to stop calling and chasing after me," which is true. I had a male friend tell me once that you know if a girl was really interested in him and would do all that, that of course he kept her around, but it wasn't for a good reason. It was just for an ego stroke. But he went out with other women who gave him a challenge. And I'm like, you're a dog, Big Charlie. You're a dog. And he's like, but that's how it works.
Yes,
You
that's
know,
so true. That's true. You know, men have this like they like the girls, you know, that like they to stroke their ego, like you said it. It's really they adore it to have multiple women around them, chasing them here a little bit, here or there. And they like this game of like having women around. They feel like popular. Like the girls feel popular when many men chase them. Men are the same in this thing. The more women are around them, the better they feel about themselves. So you're just, you know, if you don't give him a challenge and you chase him, you just give him, you just please his ego, and that's it. You don't get anything out of it, unfortunately.
and you don't look. See, one example. And I made a joke about it last time we were having a group. My daughter's, I'm sorry, Elaine, I've got to call him what he is, sperm source. He's not worthy to be called a father and or a daddy. But her sperm source really thinks I'm the devil himself and all that. And but we had started talking recently, sometime last year, just back and forth about grandkids and all that. But then we had a fight, and I said something, and yes, it was true what I said to him, but I could have held off. So anyway, I that was about a few months ago, but I got and I apologized and I told him, hey, look, I was a jackass for saying that. That was really cruel. I hope you accept my apology. And he took like a day and a half or so to respond to me, and he's like, oh, no worry. So I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I took a day and a half to respond back to him, and all I got was, all I said was thank you. And, he had read the message. And then the one time I reached out and I contacted him, him on the own, is that the last time we talked before the fight, we were talking about what to get our youngest granddaughter for her birthday. And I asked him, what are we going to get Shiloh? What are you going to get Shiloh for her birthday? I'm confused about what something extra to get her. And that was all I said. And he hasn't responded back to me. And I'm not going to reach out again. Hey, okay, I just asked you about your granddaughter. That was it. So, and yeah, a lot of times this is what really gets me. What's the saying? If somebody tells you how they are, believe them. And also, actions speak louder than words. And I was guilty of it, and I'm pretty sure you were guilty of it. Is that somebody's showing you how they are? If you listen to them, they're telling you how they are. But yet, when some women, when they get those love blinders on, they see nothing. They don't hear anything, they don't see anything. And I had one friend, and she would make a fool out of herself over this younger guy she was dating. And I told her, hey, look, he's excited because he's got an attractive older woman who's falling head over heels for him and doing everything. And she's like, well, he should be lucky. A woman like me spoils him. And I'm like, oh, he knows he's lucky, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a younger girl around the corner. I had to tell her what I meant because, trust me, I would have kicked him out the door for the way he was doing. But, so if somebody's telling you how they are and they're showing you how they are, believe them. Believe them. And
Yeah,
that's all.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's I think so too. Yeah, you know, it's very easy. If he calls you, he's interested. If he doesn't call you, he's not interested. You should be moving on. It doesn't mean like that you know you don't hope he's gonna call. It doesn't mean that you don't dream about him calling if you like him enough. But eventually, you know, when you don't give him the urge to call him first, you just this feeling of this urgency that he needs to call, I want him to call, it will pass eventually, because you know enough time it will pass and you will forget about him. But that's that, you know, you just avoid basically man pain. Okay, I think I'm gonna end this
Okay.
chapter now. It was very productive. All right, let me just
Yeah.
end the recording.